All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Errol Spence, Gervonta Tank Davis, and also Adrien Broner, as there has been a whole bunch of PBC and Al Heyman related rumors that have just blown up this week, specifically them going out of business. And something that Adrien Broner just said yesterday to The Zone, which I tell you, if you guys just spend a couple seconds thinking about it, man, you guys will not make such a big deal about these things. But let's get into the specifics in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the business of boxing. And if you have not been under a rock, or you've been on this channel or been on YouTube and listened to what people have been saying about the network that Errol Spence Jr., Deontay Wilder, Gervonta Tank Davis all fight on, which is called Showtime Sports and the PBC. You've heard that they were going out of business because of a big merger taking place with Paramount Plus and Showtime. And then just today or yesterday, there was another bit of breaking news that came out where Adrien Broner has said that he has not been paid by Al Heyman and the PBC in 6 fights. Now, if you listen to the video that I did before on the first issues, I told you so. And that is exactly how it panned out, exactly what I told you would happen, and something most people should have seen when the news about Showtime and Paramount's merger came out. But also, I'm now going to do you a favor and get rid of this, or at least give you some clarity into what Adrien Broner said. Use about 3 minutes worth of thinking to figure out, okay, something doesn't sound right there. But before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter, like my man, Keys to the Game, Keys to the Game, or Keys 214 is like you used to go out there, or used to go by. What's going on, my man? Thank you so much for your support in the super chat. So King of the Blue super chats over there in the live streams that we do. So this video is dedicated to you, my man. I left your name off of a couple other videos. That's my bad, but got you now. And thank you to everybody else that supports in that way, and the super thanks in videos like this. But let's get into this. Okay, so I told you so. There are a lot of people out there saying that Showtime was going to be going out of business because they were going to combine with or merge with Paramount, and that means that Paramount was going to get rid of all programs that accounted for less than 10% of their views. And I told you when I read that and I listened to what Bob Bakish said about it, that was absolute nonsense in the way that they were interpreting it as how it would affect Showtime. Now, what did I say happened and what actually did happen? What I told you was that Errol Spence, Gervonta Davis, and Deontay Wilder fights, along with the Charlo fights and all these other guys that fight on Showtime, were not the target of the reductions that, at least as far as what Bob Bakish said and what had been said at the time, because Bob Bakish, and I listened to what Bob Bakish said because Bob Bakish is the CEO of Paramount. Paramount runs Showtime. And what he said was that there were 3 verticals, and they are news, sports, and content, right? Franchise content, television programs, the rest of that, all of the different things that are television shows or movies which are produced, basically stories and things like that. So what I told you was, it was most likely that Showtime Sports was not going to go anywhere because that is a sport. It is not part of the content. It's not part of the news. It is part of sports. So what actually winds up happening? What winds up happening is that Steven Espinoza of Showtime Sports winds up taking Showtime Sports over to CBS and now reports to CBS Sports. Now, why would I say that that was likely to happen? Because if you've ever washed dishes in your life, you want to organize your dishes in the dishwasher, do you know what you do? You put the plates next to the plates, you put the forks next to the forks, you put the spoons next to the spoons, you put the knives next to the knives. That's how it works. You organize things in a way where all like things are put together so that you can, when you are trying to evaluate the success of it or budget for it, you have all of those things together. So what happens to Showtime? Showtime, all of the content goes underneath MTV. Why? Because MTV Studios are producing movies, this, that, and the other. So all of Showtime's movies, their regular schedule, their franchises, all of that stuff is now nice and neat in the drawer with all the other content. Showtime did not do news, so we didn't have to worry about any of Showtime going over to wherever they produce their news. However, Showtime Sports then goes over to CBS Sports, where they have football and they have all of those other things. So what is the actual result of it? Just like I told you in that video, that was likely to happen. Now Showtime Sports actually has more resources because now it's over there with all of the sports content. Now, also, there's been reports that Showtime laid off 25% of its staff. What is 25% of their staff? 120 people throughout all of Showtime. And we know most likely that those are related to the content, like producers, directors. They canceled several shows, three shows that we know of. That probably took up the majority of the layoffs, but yet Showtime Sports I'm not saying I know that Showtime Sports didn't have any layoffs, but I know they didn't have any layoffs in as far as the content goes, because Showtime, shout out to my guy, Zenith 360, who went to Twitter and gave this basic same explanation, and his tweet was liked by Steven Espinoza, that nothing changed in the organization of Showtime except for the departments got bigger. Now let's get on to this Adrien Broner thing, because I have to do this one. Don't want to do a whole specific video for it, but let's think about what Adrien Broner said about the PBC. He says that I have not gotten a check in 6 years from Al Heyman, and that Al Heyman was paying me at one point in time $10,000 a day, and then it went to $5,000 a day, then $2,500 a day, then $500 a day, and then to $250 a day. So I'm like, what's going on? Now, let's take Adrien Broner at his word and think about this for a second. 6 years ago, he hasn't taken a check in 6 fights. 6 fights for Adrien Broner is 6 years ago. 6 years ago. There's been several years that he hasn't fought at all. And most years he's fought, I'm not even sure, remember the last time he fought, more than once in a year, right? He turned down a fight or walked away from a fight last year with Figueroa, so that was not a payday, right? Some fights make more than other fights. So his 2 biggest fights that he had were the Manny Pacquiao pay-per-view and the Mikey Garcia fight. So how could you explain what he says? Is it possible that he did not get, he was not getting paid. First of all, I don't know why he would not get checks from them. But if he didn't get checks from them and he just got, say, allowed Al Heyman to manage as his advisor and manager, allowed him to manage his financial accounts for him, and then he's getting paid off of it, that could explain why it would start at $10,000 a day and go all the way down to $2,500. Now, do the math for me for a second. How much is $10,000 a day for just 1 year? For just one of the 6 years. That, my friend, is $3.6 million. Now, if you did 10,000, then 5,000, and then down to 1,000 a day, then $250 a day. Do you realize that $500 a day is somewhere around, I don't know, $180,000 over the year? So if you go from a $3.6 million all the way down, that means he could have had payments given to him over the course of that 6 years of $5 or $6 million. $5, $6, $7 million. So if he's not getting checks and he's getting daily disbursements, that seems like he has an agreement to manage his money. And if he doesn't know how much money that he's getting and not actually counting his money, then millions and millions of dollars can pass through his hands without him ever knowing it. And then look up and be like, where's all my money? Well, where's your money? Your money got paid to you, but it got paid to you over a period of time. Like people get, residuals or royalties for television shows. It starts up and it goes down over time. But more than likely, since he said he was getting $10,000 a day, that's probably where the money went. He probably just needs an accounting for it to know where his money is, because he wouldn't be the first athlete or person in the world that just isn't good at managing money. And that is a very plausible explanation for why that could happen without jumping to the conclusion that Al Heyman is just refusing to pay him and stealing his money. But anyway, for people that are willing to say that based off the information coming out about Showtime that they were going to go out of business, even though I told you flat out, there's a perfectly logical, there's a perfectly acceptable expectation that they would do perfectly fine, because they'll just move the sports away from the programming, like the CEO said. But people that don't want to hear that don't want to hear that. And as far as a guy getting paid $10,000 a day, right? If you're getting paid $10,000 a day, why would you take a check? Somebody had the check. The check went somewhere, and $10,000 a day, $5,000 a day adds up real fast. If you do the first year at $10,000 a day, that's $3.6 million that year. You go to $5,000 a day, the very next year, that's basically like $1.7 million, or excuse me, like $1.7 million or $1.8 million the next year. That right there brings you to $5 million in payment in those first 2 years. And then you go down another year for another $500,000 and another $200,000, then another $100,000, then another $50,000. It adds up. Instead of trying to always look and try to find a way why these guys are stealing from people or going out of business, just use your brain. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.